It says your mic's muted, Ayanda. Oh, it's my mic. Oh.
Hi.
Hi, I can hear you now.
Sorry, I forgot to do this earlier.
It's okay. So who do we want to go first?
Sorry, my son's crying in the background. I was trying
It's okay.
to cry. Okay, so with the meeting that we're going to have now, are we so meeting where we discuss like the questions that we have, or the meeting where we practice we're going to practice the lesson plan then?
I think you and I were just going to practice the lesson plan, and then later with our group we're supposed to talk about the questions that we had.
Okay, so it's sort of both.
What?
Sorry, I was just confirming if it's this. So it's, you said it's the lesson plan in the beginning, and then afterwards we talk about the questions.
Yeah, so later when we meet with our group, then we'll do the outline and the questions, but for just now, we're gonna practice our presentation.
Okay, that's fine. And then are we only doing one presentation? So one lesson plan, right?
Yes, so you and I can take turns, and we only have to teach like 15 minutes of it.
Okay, that's fine. That sounds good. Makes it less complicated, and I think it will help us prepare for the meeting that we have with Courtney and Mike, so we can practice noting and things like that.
Yes, I think it will too. And it'll give us an idea about timing too.
Yeah, that's true. And how do you want to do it? Like, how do you want to set it up? How do you want to split the slides like that?
Well, so I was kind of thinking, like, when I am teaching my thing, like, I'll just kind of be the one in charge. And then, like, if you have any comments, or maybe there might be times where I'll, like, kind of ask you, like, what do you think or something? Like, if Mike and Courtney aren't really answering questions very much, you know what I mean? If they're kind of being quiet or something, I might ask you your input. Or if you just feel like interjecting stuff here and there, you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. And just like kind of like a foot in the back kind of thing.
Sorry, you cut out. What did you say?
I was just saying, so basically my role will be, for example, when you're, I'll just be to support and back you up, and then you'll do the same when it's my turn.
Yeah, I think that would be good, because like you prepared your lesson and I prepared my lesson, and I think like it would be harder to try to like split it up, you know, since like we prepared what we prepared. And I mean, this will be good because it'll be like we're each teaching 4 lessons basically, you know, and if we were doing the workshop, that'd be what we were doing too. So I think it's good.
Okay, cool. So for this one, we're going to do the same thing. So you're going to be the number one, right?
Yeah, and then if you have like enough of your presentation for lesson 2 done, you can do that one too. So we can just both get them done, you know?
Okay, okay. Okay, so what I thought that we were doing is, I thought that they wanted us to teach one lesson. I didn't realize it. Okay, so so we're going to split it up. So you're going to do yours, I'll do mine.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that. That works good. So you said we've got 15 minutes, so it's about 7 minutes each.
I think we're each supposed to do 15 minutes, like, because we're both supposed to be, like, giving 15 minutes of a presentation. So, like, you know, I feel like because we had the option of not doing it together, like, we could have done it with, like, our husband or whoever. So I think, like, it was supposed to be 15 minutes each. So I think if we each do 15 minutes, then we'll be good.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you want me to start?
Sure. Yeah, you can start, and then I'll do the next 15 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You can start. Yep. Sorry, I wanted to say that you can start, and then one of them can go, and then I'll go, and then the other one of their.
Oh, they're not in with us today. They'll be with us later, and we're just gonna go over our outlines later. Our group.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just us.
Okay.
Just us. For now, until 10, and then at 10, we'll have another meeting where we're just doing our outlines. We're not doing anything with our lessons.
Oh, gosh. You know what I thought? Okay, I am so sorry. Okay, so what I thought is that the reason why we're meeting now is so that when we meet with, because you know that thing said that you need to teach the lesson to your consultants.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I thought that the meeting that we're having in an hour is the meeting where we're going to teach them, and they're going to give us feedback on what our lesson plans are like.
Oh, I don't think so, because I think, remember when we met before, we did the outline, and then we, like, just talked about, like, what we were reading and stuff. And then, so I saw that, like, we could teach it to our consultants, but then, like, on the video, I think, or maybe it wasn't the video, but the, like, announcement that she sent out said that we were just supposed to teach it to, like, either our group member or to, like, somebody from, a friend or parent or spouse or somebody.
I saw that, and I'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I think the next meeting is, next meeting is just like the regular learning interaction that we're supposed to do like every 3 weeks for our outlines.
It makes it so complicated, because that's what I was wondering about. I was like, how are we supposed to, like, all do lesson plans in one lesson? And, like, how are we supposed to do do the learning interaction as well, and all that in one lesson that's supposed to be 1 hour? That makes sense. Thank you for finding it for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're gonna run through your lesson with me, and mine with you.
Yes. So I'll set a timer for 15 minutes so that I know, like, when the timer goes off, and then if it happens to stop, like, in a weird place, I'll just kind of try to wrap it up.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I'm going to screen share so you can see the PowerPoint as I do it, because this will probably be, like, what I'll do with Courtney and Mike. Like, we'll kind of meet and greet for a second, and then I'll go to the PowerPoint. So I'm going to do that now. All right, can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about financial management skills. I know that you and Mike, said that this was something you were really interested in, so we wanted to make sure we did it on our first lesson so that, we got it in there, and then if there was, like, any follow-up questions you guys had, in other lessons you could ask about that too, and so that we could follow up with you guys and see how it's going. So I have to say that This presentation is under the supervision of Dr. Amanda Beal. We have to say that since we're not licensed, but this is a presentation by Ayanda and I. So I wanted to put in some information about money problems and how it affects marriage, because I think, I don't know if everybody knows, but it is a real problem in marriages. So debt is one of the top 5 problems in marriage. Consumer debt was negatively related to marital satisfaction. The American Bar Association has indicated that 89% of all divorces can be traced to quarrels and accusations over money. Others have estimated that 75% of all divorces result from clashes over finances. Some professional counselors indicate that 4 out of 5 families are strapped with serious money problems. So it's pretty serious. I mean, it really affects marriages. So first I wanted to talk about like how we talk about money, because I think how we talk about money has a big effect on how we handle money. First off, trust and honesty is really at the foundation of communication about money. Let's see, Ayanda, can I ask you to read this quote?
Sure. Research indicates that couples must be able to trust each other with money and be able to communicate effectively about financial matters, such as checking account management, investment decisions, and planning for retirement.
So I'm going to ask a question here. Mike and Courtney, do you guys feel like you communicate well about money? Do you feel like you talk about it a lot? Maybe not even like communicate well, but do you even talk about it really? And then hopefully they'll give an answer.
Yeah,
so next I wanted to talk about I statements versus you statements. Have you guys heard about this before?
No.
Hopefully they'll give an answer. So I statements are just what they sound like, statements that start with I. They're less accusatory. They express how a given action or circumstance makes the speaker feel, and it promotes conversation rather than conflict. Whereas you statements are just like they say, statements that start with you, and they're accusatory, and they elicit feelings of shame and anger, and they provoke defensiveness. So an example, let's see, we'll go back here. An example of a you statement would be like, you never pay the bills on time. Can you see how that would make someone feel really bad, and it just makes them feel like they're being blamed? Whereas an I statement reflects more of how you're feeling about the situation. So you could say, it makes me feel really nervous when our bills aren't paid on time. I would really appreciate it if you could make a bigger effort to pay the bills on time. So that sort of thing. It just, you can see the difference, hopefully. So now we're going to practice some I statements. So each of you are going to take a scenario. Courtney, we'll have you do the first scenario. So in this scenario, you feel angry because your spouse overspent in the clothing budget category and in the eating out category of your budget for the month. So can you come up with an I statement that would express how you feel about this situation?
Okay.
And then, so Courtney will take a turn. And then scenario 2, so Mike, this one's your scenario. So your spouse used the credit card and did not tell you, so you missed a payment, causing a penalty fee. So can you come up with an I statement that would, be for this scenario? And hopefully he'll come up with one. So both spouses should be involved in managing the finances. I think, and I used to be guilty of this too, where it was like, well, my husband works and so he makes the money, and I didn't feel very confident in my skills in managing money, and so to me it was just easier to let him be in charge of it. But it's actually not, it's too much pressure to put on one person. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the other person either. So let's see, Courtney, will you read the first quote there? Ayanda, you can just read it while pretending to be Courtney.
The finding suggests there are a variety of ways to successfully make financial decisions. Having a plan, both partners agreed upon essentials. In the home,
Yeah, so,
management.
oh, go ahead, sorry.
In the home, money management between husband and wife should be on a partnership basis, with both parties having a voice in decision and policy making.
So this is from a couple different places, but that second quote is from Marvin J. Ashton from this pamphlet called One for the Money, and it's full of a lot of great information, but I really like that, you know, it really emphasizes the importance of both parties having a voice in the decision and policy making, because it really is important that both partners are involved. I probably would insert another question there. Mike and Courtney, how do you feel you guys do about that? Are you both pretty involved in your, you know, your money management? And then they'll give an answer. This to me is a really important quote from that One for the Money pamphlet. And I feel like it's almost kind of like a prophetic warning in a way, but it's definitely something to consider. So control of the money by one spouse as a source of power and authority causes inequality in the marriage and is inappropriate. Conversely, if a marriage partner voluntarily removes himself or herself entirely from family financial management, this is an abdication of necessary responsibility. So I really like that quote, and I have to say I was very guilty of this before, like I said, where I was just like, you know, I didn't feel like I was very good at it, so I just let my husband deal with it. But this makes it clear this is an abdication of necessary responsibility. So it is, you know, it's necessary for both partners to be involved in this, and I can say that it is a good thing. It's really good. Even though it's hard, it's good. So before you plan your budget, there's some things that you can do that will kind of help you to get started in the budgeting. So we're going to talk about a few of those things. So first of all, it's really good to define collective financial goals. You might be surprised in talking with your spouse that if you've never talked about this before, like you guys might have different ideas about your financial goals. You know, Mike's financial goal might be that he wants to buy a house in the next 5 years. And Courtney, your financial goal might be like 10 years, you know, to buy a house. And so it's really good to talk about these things so that you guys are on the same page, because your goals are really going to guide your budgeting. So it's really good to have a short-term, a medium-term, and a long-term goal. So an example of a short-term goal, which is, you know, within the next 1 to 5 years, is in the next 3 years, I would like to have a car paid off. Another one is in the next 5 years, I would like to have our student loans paid off. A medium-term goal is in the next 10 years, or in 10 years from now, I would like to buy our first home. A long-term goal might sound like I would like to have our house halfway paid off in 20 years, or I would like to have $300,000 in retirement fund in 25 years. So it's really hard to think about those long-term goals because they seem so far off, but it's kind of good just to visualize like where you want to be, you know, long-term. So I wanted to do an activity where I had you each make a list of your short-term, medium-term, and long-term financial goals, and just come up with like 4 or 5, you know, or even 1 in each category, and then we'll compare and see how your goals line up. And then that might be something you guys can talk about later if they don't. So I'll give you a couple of minutes here. And then I was going to put on some music while they were doing that, but I won't do that right now. Creating a budget and zero-based budgeting. So this is the exciting part and the hard part. So this is something called a monthly cash flow plan. I downloaded this off of Dave Ramsey's website. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's a really well-known financial advisor, I guess. He has a radio program and he has several books and programs for people to learn how to manage their money. So I find this to be really helpful. basically you're going to put what your take-home pay is up in this top corner, and then you're going to put the amount that you spend in the spent category, and then the amount that is budgeted in this category. So you're going to start here in the budgeting category. You're going to put what you budget, and then as you go, or at the end of the month, you can put in what you actually spent, and you can see how they compared. So it's really helpful to do this, especially when you're just starting out. You know, it's really hard to get an idea of what you spend in certain categories if you're not really paying attention to them. Like groceries, I think, is a big one, because, you know, you make a million little trips to the grocery store throughout the week, and it's hard to keep track of that. And especially if you're not actively trying to keep track of it, you probably don't really realize how much you spend in that area. So it's really good to do this when you're first starting out, just to see what you're spending. And then even as you go, to keep track of those things. It's very important. So when you're creating your budget, you're going to put those totals in, and you're going to add them up as you go. And then at the very end, you'll put in your total, and then you'll put in, you know, your take-home pay minus your category totals, and that should give you your balance. And your balance ideally would be 0, because you want to make sure that every dollar has a place to go. Because if it doesn't have a place to go, then it's probably just going to get blown, you know. And that, you know, you need some miscellaneous money like that. You need some blow money, I think is what Dave Ramsey calls it, you know, because you do need to have some fun and things like that, but it needs to have a, you know, a name. It needs to have a place to go. So this is kind of the idea behind it. So how to know how much to budget. Something that my husband and I did when we were starting out was we went through our bank records over the period of about 2 or 3 months, and we used that cash flow sheet, and we categorized everything just to see like what our spending looked like. And you know, you can say, okay, I can see that we're spending a lot of money on food. I think we need to cut back on that, you know, maybe eating out. Or you could see, oh man, we're spending way too much money on clothes every month. We need to just cut back on that. You'll be able to see some things as you do that. And also you can see how those spending habits align with your goals. Like if you have a goal to pay off your car in 3 years, but you're not able to save any money because you're spending so much in these different categories, where you could be cutting back, then, you know, maybe it's time to adjust some things and try to really like get it pinned down. So Dave Ramsey has these things he calls his baby steps. I think there's 7 baby steps maybe, but for your guys' presentation, I just wanted to do the first 3 because I think those are probably the most relevant to you guys. So the first baby step is to save $1,000 in cash. That is an emergency fund, and to have it somewhere where it's accessible, but know that it's only for emergencies. It's not because you went over your budget in clothing for the month. Like it's only for, you know, your car breaks down or something like that. It's for something, an emergency, you know. And then baby step 2 is called the debt snowball. And so this is if you're starting to pay off debt. I'm not sure if you guys have debt, but you know, I figured with Mike, you being in school, I figured this might be a possibility, and maybe student loans or whatever, you might want to think about paying them off when I know you're going to be done with school fairly soon. So something that Dave recommends is to start off by paying the smallest debt first, and then gradually move towards the largest debt. Because as you do that, you're going to gain momentum, and it's going to feel really good to pay off debts. And then, you know, you pay the smallest debt, and then whatever you're putting towards that debt, you roll over to the next debt, and then you pay off the next debt, and you roll that over to the next debt. And kind of the idea of like a snowball going down a hill, you know, it starts small and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually you're able to just pay it off. And then baby step 3 is what Dave calls this fully funded emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. You know, as you do your monthly cash flow sheet, you'll be able to see how much expenses you have and, you know, what your income is. And so the goal is to save 3 to 6 months worth of your income into your fully funded emergency fund. And that's 15 minutes, so I'm going to stop.
It sounds good, and it's flowing really well. I like it. It sounds really good. I just need to, I'm going to move to another room, so I'm just going to turn off my audio and video, and then when I come back on, I'll be ready to give a little bit more feedback.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry. Everyone's in the lounge, so it's really, really loud.
Oh.
So I had to move here. Sorry for the delay.
It's okay.
Okay. So I think that it's flowing really well. I like the pacing, and I also like the questions and where they fit in. So it's like there are no long stretches of you talking for a long time without involving them, and the activities as well. Like they are like it's activities that require them to think, but it's also activities that are not too that don't make them feel too uncomfortable. And that actually made me think of my lesson plan as well. I actually wanted to turn it in, but I think before I do, I'll just add like some activities and things for them to do as well, and then I'll send it to you and um, turn. And then if you need to resubmit, do that.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was really, really good. The structure and the pacing were good. How did you feel as you were presenting it?
I felt pretty good. I feel like I was talking a lot, but I know that like when it comes time to do the actual teaching, like I'll be able to ask questions and have them engage more, you know.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that it will flow. It will go. I remember the intake interview as well. Like there are questions there, but as conversation goes as well, it gets better and better. So I think, yeah, it'll be good. I'm ready to share mine. So let me just share. Just gonna open.
Do you want me to put a timer on my phone, or do you have a timer?
You can put it on. I don't know where I put mine.
Okay.
Let me just share.
I'll just wait until you actually start, and then I'll start it.
Okay. Just want to open the lesson file. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then I just need to do a screen share. Okay, can you see it properly?
I can't see your screen. Oh, there it is.
Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Yes, I see it now.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we're really excited to have you guys. And I know that you guys told us that you're having your daughter. So we really wanted to you to to talk a little bit about parenting, and it is an interesting journey. It's a long journey. It's a difficult journey, and it takes a lot out of you. But it's something. It's a beautiful journey as well, because it's a process where you learn, where you experience things, and it's also obviously something that the gospel supports. And one of the most important things is that, you know, even the family proclamation states that the family is ordained of God, and it's something that Heavenly Father wants and He supports. I just wanted to share this video with you, just for a little bit, and then we'll continue from there. Okay, so I don't have to play the whole video, right? I'll just
Yeah.
So basically, this video talks about it highlights a talk that was shared by Elder Anderson about having children and how enriching they are in our lives. So just after watching the video and from your own experiences, what are you most excited about when it comes to being a parent? And then they answer, what are you most afraid of? And then they answer, what's your definition of a good parent? What do you say that you've done as a parent to show that you're so obviously, one of the main reasons why we're having this lesson is just to give you some tips. So we formulated a list of some parenting tips from experts, from prophets, so that you can be able to use these tips hopefully in your life. There's a book called The 10 Principles of the 10 Basic Principles of Good Parenting, and written by an author called Lawrence Steinberg. And in this book, he lists 10 principles that are scientifically based that parents to be able to do their job better. In the book, he mentions that parenting is just not something, it does come naturally, but when we use a science-based approach to it as well, it helps us able to manage the relationships that we have with our children. And then I'm just going to ask guys to just read the list, and then we'll highlight 2 of those, and then we'll also give you a handout that includes the list of all of them. So can you please read the list of the 10 principles?
1, what you do matters. 2, you cannot be too loving. 3, be involved in your child's life. 4, adapt your parenting to fit your child. 5, establish and set rules. 6, foster your child's independence. 7, be consistent. 8, avoid harsh discipline. 9, explain your rules. And 10, I cannot see on there because there's a little something at the bottom of your screen. Oh, it went away. Okay. Oh, I can't see it still, but something child with respect. Oh, there we go. 10, treat your child with respect.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So with what you do matters, can one of you, Mike, can you please read that quote on there?
Tell yourself that every day, how you treat and respond to your child should come from a knowledgeable, deliberate sense of what you want to accomplish. Always ask yourself, what effect will my decision have on my child?
One of the things that Steinberg mostly talks about, thank you so much for reading that, appreciate it. One of the things that Steinberg mostly talks about is the fact that when you are a parent, it's one of the most important relationships that your child will form with anyone. And that will roll onto the kind of relationships that you'll have with other people. So this is something that's very important, the relationship that you have with them. That's why it matters so much. All right, Courtney, can you please read the next quote?
When it comes to genuine expressions of warmth and affection, you cannot love your child too much. It is simply not possible to spoil a child with love. What we often think of as the product of spoiling a child is never the result of showing a child too much love. It is usually the consequence of giving a child things in place of love, things like leniency, lowered expectations, or material possessions.
All right, thank you very much. Then I'm just going to ask a question quickly. Why do you think that it's so important that we show love more than rigidness towards our children? And then they answer that. And then one of the main things that themes that we wanted to incorporate in our lesson today is a parenting style called authoritative parenting. And this parenting style basically talks about children and parents working together to accomplish the greater goal of having a wonderful relationship. Um, so on the screen here, we've just got a list of different characteristics of this parenting style and how the children will respond to this style. So one of the most important things about authoritative parenting is that parents have control, but they are very flexible. They have demands, but they're very rational. They are warm, they are receptive to a child's communication, and they value discipline and self-reliance and uniqueness. And the wonderful thing about this is that children respond positively to this because they become self-reliant and they love to explore. They become more self-controlled. They become cooperative not only with their parents but with other people, and they are also very content. Studies have been done, and they've shown that when children are raised by authoritative parents, they not only gain a respect for themselves and for their parents, but for other adults as well. They are also more autonomous and more willing to explore the world around them and more willing to form relationships with other people. We've got a video here that shows an example of authoritative parenting. Um, it's from an old school show, so hopefully it might bring back memories, or maybe you guys were born in another decade. But yeah, it just shows a nice example on the type of parent an authoritative parent is. Okay, and then we watch the video. Um, so just we just want to make sure that you're able to apply this parenting style. And there's a wonderful talk that was shared by a BYU professor, and he tried to summarize the ways in which we can be able to apply authoritative parenting in three ways. It's called love, limits, and latitude. We call it the three L's. It's easy to remember. So if you ever need to use it 10 years from now, I hope that you guys will be able to remember it. First of all, with regards to the principle of love, um, President Brigham Young said, kind words and loving actions towards children will subdue children's uneducated nature a great deal better than physical punishment. So it talks about the importance of not trying to coerce children or trying to force them to do things, but instead loving them and helping them understand the importance of doing the right thing. The next principle is limits. And the most important thing about this is that rules are also an evidence of love because on the flip side, if you're a parent that doesn't have rules, you become permissive and children become indecisive. So rules allow children to experience the world in a way that's thoughtful and that's deliberate, and rules help children govern themselves and parents maintain consistency in the home. Um, and then the other wonderful thing about with regards to this is that we need to give our children latitude, which means that we should. One of the greatest quotes that's an example of this is the quote by the prophet Joseph Smith that says, principles and then they govern themselves. So as parents, our role is to teach our children correct principles, to use those principles. And research shows that children who experience an appropriate amount of autonomy tend to be better at sharing power and understanding the viewpoints of others. They, they not only have better respect for their parents, but other adults as well. Um, and then I'm hoping to have questions in this portion or like an activity or something. Um, and then there's also another website that's called Parents as Teachers. And this website is wonderful because it's very helpful with child development. And it contains ideas on how to optimize child development, activities that you can do with your child that will help you interact with them, And they also provide personal visits and group meetings so that you can be able to apply the principles that are there. Um, so we've talked about parenting tips from experts, and we talked about what their suggestions are and how we can apply them. And now we're going to talk a little bit about our church leaders and some quotes that they have shared about how to be good parents. Mike, can you please read that quote for us?
Today's popular culture tries to erode and demean your eternal role as a patriarch and father and minimize your most important responsibilities. These have been given to you by divine design, and as fathers, you are to preside over your families in love and righteousness and are responsible to provide the necessities of life and protection for your families. Fathers, you are the guardians of your home, your wives, and your children. Today, it is not an easy thing to protect one's family against intrusions of evil into their minds and spirits. These influences can and do flow freely into the home. Satan is very clever. He will not break down, or he need not break down the door.
All right. And then I'll ask a question about fatherhood. For example, like how does he feel about his role about being a father, and how can he prepare now to ensure that he does play the role of the protector in his home? We're going to go on to the next slide. Courtney, can you please read that?
To all mothers in every circumstance, including those who struggle, in all will, I say, be peaceful. Believe in God and yourself. You are doing better than you think you are. In fact, you are saviors on Mount Zion, and like the Master you follow, your love never faileth. I can pay no higher tribute to anyone. What mothers do is an essential element of Christ's work. Knowing that should be enough to tell us that the impact of such love will range between unbearable and transcendent over and over again until, with the safety and salvation of the very last child on earth, we can then say with Jesus, Father, I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. Elder Jeffrey R. Holland.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And then I'll ask Courtney a question about being a parent. Like, for example, what are some things that you as a mother can do to ensure that your daughter something. I'll figure out a question and I'll put it there.
Okay.
Helpful. All right. And this is a quote from the Family Proclamation that I would like to read to you. And I really love this quote because it just reminds everyone what they, husbands and wives, and all of us, what our roles are as parents. It says husbands and wives have a solemn responsibility to love and care for one another and for their children. Children are inherited of the Lord. Parents have a sacred duty to rear their children in love and righteousness, provide for their physical and spiritual needs, and to teach them to love and serve one another, observe the commandments of God, and to be law-abiding citizens wherever they live. Husbands and wives, mothers and fathers will be held accountable before God for the discharge of these options. So it's not just our roles as parents are not just tiny roles that we play, or they're not just a back thought on the things that we do, but they are great responsibilities that we need to fulfill. And the Lord will help us as we try to fulfill these roles, but we will also stand accountable if we don't fulfill these roles. So I'm not trying to scare you, but just a quick reminder on how sacred the role of being a parent is. So we just want to wrap it all up and share with you just some final thoughts on everything that we have shared, and hopefully this will be helpful to you as you become parents. So first of all, what you do as a parent has the power to influence your child for the rest of their lives. So don't ever feel, and also don't ever feel like you're giving your child too much love. We talked about authoritative parenting. It's about finding the perfect balance between control and involvement in your child's life. Your child will be happier and more content if you practice authoritative parenting. The key basic ways to exercise authoritative parenting are love, limits, and latitude. Fathers provide and protect. Mothers love deeply, pray sincerely, and nurture unwaveringly. And parents need to be united. Remember that you're fulfilling a wonderful part of the Lord's plan. The end.
Wow, your whole presentation, my timer just went off as you said at the end.
Okay. Yeah, I do want to add some questions and activities in there. I'm grateful that we were able to do this and run through this because now it's helping me. It helped me get some ideas on some questions that I can include there. Oh, I'm still screen sharing.
Yeah, I had a recommendation too on, like, you read that part from the family proclamation, and I wonder if I put on that handout like an idea of having them go through the proclamation and highlight the sections that apply to parents. Maybe you could do that as an activity, because that would probably take up 5 minutes or so for them to do that.
Yeah, I like that. Let me just add that here so that I don't forget. Okay.
Like, maybe you could have them each pick out the sections that specifically apply to parents, and then maybe have Mike find the parts that apply to fathers, and Courtney mothers.
I like that. Cool. Thank you. That's really helpful. Yeah. And then I'll also just add.
I think you did a nice job, though. I think, like, I really liked how it flowed, and you didn't seem like nervous at all. It seemed like you were like, your thoughts flowed freely, and I mean, I think you did a good job. And I thought that the like different topics kind of flowed nicely into each other, and I think it went pretty well. It needs to be a little longer, that's all.
Thank you. So the other thing that I wanted to see here is I've got like some other notes. Okay, so there's a way to put notes. I don't know how to remember all the stuff that I put in the lesson plan for the presentation.
I would print a copy of it and have it in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. So just print it out so that you can keep like looking at it. Yeah, because there's no way. I just realized now, like, that there's no way for me to look at the lesson plan and present at the same time because I'm sharing my screen. So yeah,
Right.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
I was thinking that same thing as I was presenting. I was thinking I should definitely print out a copy of my outline so that I can like see it in front of me. We should probably also tell Mike and Courtney to have like some paper and a pencil and maybe even a highlighter, or like if we need to have, say, like for that activity with the family proclamation thing, like tell them, here's a copy of the family proclamation. We would like it if you guys could print it before the lesson so that you'll have it for an activity, because there's going to be some things that they'll need in preparation for it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add that as well to the lesson, like the lesson materials.
Right. Yeah, because like for mine, they're gonna need a paper and pen.
Yeah. So copy of the family proclamation. Paper. So we just need to remind them to bring those.
Yeah, I was trying to see like how far I got through mine. I got probably about 3/4 of the way through my lesson, but there is going to be them like answering questions and filling, writing things down and stuff. So hopefully it'll take longer.
Yeah, and then there's like the videos and other insights.
Yeah.
In the lesson that obviously we're not gonna like stray fully like from the lesson plan, but yeah. So yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, I had a hard time with this lesson plan. Like, I literally spent every waking moment doing it. So I was just like, yeah, but it's done. And like you said, like after it's done, then you kind of feel a little bit more confident, and you kind of know where to adjust things. So I just want to get the other one done. Yeah. Um, I'm going to try and get all my assignments done for this week for my other classes. How many classes are you taking?
So I have this, and then I just have an internship and an institute class. So this class is kind of like really my main class, you know, because my institute class is in person. It's not online. So like it doesn't really require a lot of work. I just, you know, have to do the reading beforehand and then go to class and take notes really. So, and then I have an internship, so that takes up the rest of my time really. But
Yeah. I'm doing my internship as a coaching class. So I'm taking
that's
two
nice.
classes. One of them is, sorry?
Oh, I said that's nice that you can do that.
Yeah, but the coaching class with by the gardener, and that's at from 12. What time is it in my time? It's from 11 to 12:30 p.m. my time.
Oh,
And I thought that it would be like once a week, but it's actually twice a week. So that's yeah. But it's a very very nice class. I'm glad that I'm doing it, and that's kind of like the only option that I have to do an internship, because I tried to look for something else aside. But yeah,
I tried to sign up for that class, but it filled up so fast.
it filled up within hours. Like it
Yeah.
was very quick.
I was like
Yeah,
bummed I didn't get in it because I love Brother Gardner. He's like really awesome.
he's awesome. Yeah. I love
My
him too.
internship's online, so I was lucky that I don't have to go anywhere. I just do it all at home.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, just wait, okay? I'm almost done. Okay, my Baba, I'm coming now. Yeah, just wait, I'm coming. Okay.
Okay, I'll let you go, Ayanda, because we have another meeting in like 3 minutes. So I'll let you go, and I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Bye.
Bye.